Everyone, this is my 1-year ownership update and review video for my Toro Titan HD. Had the machine for about a year now. I only use it for residential purposes. I don't do any commercial cutting with it, and in the last year I put about 21 hours on the machine. Obviously that's a slow week for a commercial cutter, but residentially that's probably what most owners will do. One of the most debated topics on this is with the 1500 series with this new Toro V-twin engine is the fuel consumption. The engine's 708cc and it's got a 7-gallon gas tank on it. Now, from my experience, I started the year off with a completely full tank of fuel. I then ran the mower until it completely ran out of fuel. I got 8.5 hours the first time I did that. I then did it a second time. I got about 8 hours when I did it. So I think if you get all the pockets of air out of the top of the fuel tank, you should be able to get at least 8 hours on a full tank of fuel. Now, I don't measure it out. I just fill it up to the top, and then I go from there like most users will. So 8 hours is pretty good for a commercial user. That's a full day's worth of work without having to refuel it. Some of the things I've done with the machine maintenance-wise, obviously 20 hours is really not a lot that has to be done. The only thing on the maintenance schedule that had to be done was the oil change. Easy to do on this with the quick drain hose, no tools. You can get the filter off as well with no tools. So an oil change is very simple for this engine. I also greased all the grease points on it, very simple to do, as well as I clean the deck on a regular basis from grass buildup underneath. Some recommendations I have for not only this machine, but just small engines and mowers in general. I always run premium fuel with fuel stabilizer in the fuel before it goes into the machine. This is especially important for residential cutters, where the fuel may be sitting in the tank for months before you run all the way through it, especially over the winter time. So by putting fuel stabilizer in it before the fuel goes into the machine, you don't have to worry about the damage from ethanol blended fuels like we have nowadays. I also have an extra set of blades that I recommend everybody get. That way, in case the blades either wear down or get unexpectedly damaged, you don't have to worry about having any downtime. That's especially important for commercial users, having an extra set of blades so you can sort of sharpen them at your leisure and have them as an emergency backup. I also highly recommend following the maintenance guide. Toro puts a lot of time and effort into that maintenance guide. It's also very thorough and tells you what things need to be done at certain hours. And I highly recommend, more than anything, to be running a small engine approved or designed full synthetic oil. Small engine meaning it has an SL rating on it, which is pre-2009. Modern car oils are SN rating. The problem with SN oils is they do not contain high levels of zinc and phosphorus the way small engine oils do. They're designed for these motors, which are very good anti-wear additives, which they remove on car engines for emissions reasons. And full synthetic just to help keep the engines cool. With these air-cooled engines, not only does the oil have to do all the lubricating, it has to do all the cooling as well, unlike a car engine that has a radiator. So it's especially important if you want the engine to have a very long life to run small engine full synthetic oils. They're not much more expensive. Toro makes them, AMSOIL makes them. There are a few other manufacturers that make them as well. Some of the common complaints that people have asked me about on this machine, or have seen people talk about on other similar machines, with this 1500 specifically, some people say that this Toro V-twin does not have enough power. It's rated at 24.5 horsepower, which I think is plenty. It cuts at full speed with the blades engaged with no issue at all. It pulls my 700-pound log splitter around with no issue without being a full throttle, so I have zero complaints on the power of this machine. It's a lot better than what some of the competition offers at this level. Some people say it bogs down too much when you engage the clutches for the blades. I mean, all machines are going to bog down a little bit, but it does not bog down any more than any other machine would from what I've experienced. It bogs down a little bit, it picks up, and then goes from there, and then there's no issues at all. Some people say that the filter is too small. That one I somewhat agree with. The air filter on here, if you're using it commercially, especially in dusty conditions, because it doesn't have a lot of surface area compared to a cylindrical unit like on Kohler or Kawasaki's, it will get dirty a little bit quicker than a much bigger one will. On the Toro 2000 Mower, they're doing a system very similar to the Kawasaki, where it's a much bigger setup, but the filter itself doesn't get dirty, just the pre-filter on the front. So if you're putting a lot of hours on this thing, you're probably gonna have to take that off a little bit more and just clean it out than you would some of the larger systems. You can easily clean it out with an air gun, so it's a pretty easy process, but it just needs to be done a little bit more often. And some people say this leaves uncut grass. Now, if you're leaving uncut grass, there's probably one of two problems. One, your blades aren't sharp enough, or two, you're going too fast for the conditions. So I don't have that issue at all. I think if you're having that issue, it's probably you and not the machine. Now we'll get into the pros and cons of this machine compared to what some of, if any of the competition is doing. The good stuff that they've done with this machine compared to the competition. These pulley covers require no tools to take them off. They are plastic, but the plastic is very strong, so you can step on it without having to worry about breaking it, and it comes off with no tools. I clean this thing every time after I use it, and being able to just pop them off quick with no tools is an advantage that not a lot of other companies are doing. Doing these perforated holes on this floor pan is definitely much better. Some manufacturers use grip tape, which is eventually going to wear out. Those will not. They use heavy plating on the entire machine, on everything. The casters, the chassis, the deck, the bash guard, everything is very heavy plating, especially more than some of the competition. Especially the deck. Most manufacturers do not offer this heavy gauge steel on decks on machines at this level or even higher. The deck on these is a mix of 7 and 10 gauge steel. Most of the competition I've seen is offering 11 or 10 gauge on machines that are this level or even higher. So to have 7 gauge steel mixed in here is very, very robust and very, very durable. The bullnose bumper, again, getting into the strength of this deck. If you see the bullnose bumper on here, on the front here, this spot is a little bit more cleaned off than the rest of it. I was turning around and hit a stump that I didn't see that was in some tall grass, and it stopped me dead on this machine. And I thought for sure there was going to be a dent in that with how fast I was going when I hit it, but there wasn't even a dent, and it stopped the machine dead. So I was extremely impressed with how tough that bumper was and how hard of an impact that thing was able to just shrug off without taking any damage. The jack point on here, almost nobody's doing this. This jack point, you put the jack on the front. I went over that in my accessories video. You can easily get the machine up off the ground very high safely, get under the deck, which I use on a regular basis for cleaning off the deck and changing out the blades. Fuel tank, like I said before, 7 gallons. Most manufacturers at this level are doing 5. 7 is especially important for commercial users. That's a full day's worth of work without having to refuel. And it's very convenient, and I'd much rather have a bigger fuel tank than a smaller one. The 12-volt plug, especially nowadays with electronics. You want to ride around this mower, listen to music on your phone, or have any other electronics with you. Now you can charge it on the go and not have to worry about the batteries running out while you're working. Tow hitch from the factory with Toro. Not everybody's doing this. Tow hitch is built in to the bash guard, so it's nice and strong. Again, I pull a 700-pound log splitter with that. I'd be careful when I do it. I try not to be aggressive with it, but again, that's still a lot of weight on that tow hitch. No tools oil change, like I said before. Only this engine offers it. You pop that off. Same thing with the oil filter. You usually get off with no tools. Simple to do it, especially if you had to do it in the field. Also, having a roll bar on this level of a machine, and not only that, but it has a quick release, and you can pop it out and take it down with no tools. A lot of other machines, you got to get off of it, you got to pull pins out. That's a lot quicker to do it, and you can actually do it if you're sitting on the machine without getting off. They also have the easy to read deck height adjustment on the front here. I really like that. Now, nobody else is really doing that. Most machines, you kind of got to either get off or look down to readjust it. That's real simple and easy to read. The rubber chute on the side, a lot of manufacturers are doing plastic with the rubber. It bends out of the way. I've hit trees and well heads with this, and it moves quite a bit. So you don't have to worry about damaging it. If it was plastic, I probably would have broken that by now. Using lots of welded parts, and by that I mean some of the smaller items on some other machines, they will typically, like this foot lever for raising the deck, they'll do a peg on a bolt here. With this, they weld it on. So now it's little stuff like that. You don't have to worry about rattling loose over time, and then you got to tighten it and put Loctite on it. With that being welded, it'll never come loose, and that weld is very, very robust and will likely never, ever fail. And the warranty. This is the 1500 series. The warranty on this machine is 4 years or 500 hours. At this level, some manufacturers are not offering warranties like that. And as you go up to 2000, 2500, you get even more hours in the warranty. I think 2000 is 750 hours and 2500 is 1000 hours. So it's a pretty substantial warranty. They're really backing these machines up. That's a lot of hours to put on a machine. Some of the things that I think that they could have improved on compared to some of their competition, they don't have an anti-scalp wheel on the left side, on the right side of the deck here. I don't know if it was an issue with the clearance with that front wheel. It seems like the 40 and the 52 1500 series don't have it, but the 2000 and the 2500 I believe do. I I don't really see how much money they could have possibly saved by doing that. I mean, it's just 2 extra pieces of metal welded on with a plastic wheel. I mean, they're really not saving much money at that point. So a lot of people have brought that up. I don't have scalp issues, but I'm sure some people on very more hilly terrain will. Also, like I said before, the small air filter on this, you're gonna have to clean it out more if you're using it commercially, and it's real dusty. There's no way around it. It's not that big. It doesn't have as much surface area as some of the Kohler or Kawasaki setups. So just something you got to deal with, but it's easy to clean out. It doesn't really take a lot of effort or a lot of time. The throttle lever also, for some reason, the way this is set up, basically from the center point back does absolutely nothing. The throttle only really starts about here and then goes up from there. So you have this really long range of motion, but only about half of it works. So I think they could have made that a little bit of a better design so you had a little more adjustability if you wanted to really feather the throttle and not have it a full throttle for whatever reason. The seat sensor on this, I talked about this in my initial review video. It was a little bit finicky, but as time went on, I got a lot better. It's been very, very good. Every once in a while, it won't read my weight, and I just have to pick my weight up and then sit back down, and I'm good to go. But it's riveted in place, so if you wanted to change a sensor out, you got to drill out the rivets, and it's not easy to get out. I think they just should have done something that just twisted out easily, but you just got to deal with it if you have a problem with the seat sensor. And probably the biggest gripe I have with this machine is at this MSRP level, with this being the cheapest of the Titan HDs, and this is as a $6,100 MSRP level, the competition at this level or a little bit less on some machines are offering better transmissions and brand name engines. This is a ZT3100. It's a full commercial rated transmission, but if you want to go to the ZT3400 from Toro, you got to go to the 2000 or the 2500. Some of the competition is offering the ZT3400 at under $6,000. It is an upgraded transmission, and it is a better transmission, and I would like to see that on here. And also, like I said, the brand name engines, some companies are offering brand name engines like Kawasaki's at under $6,000, and on this machine, you're getting their Toro engine. I think it's a pretty good engine. It's been really good so far. I don't have any complaints about it, but if you want to go brand name, you're going to have to spend over a $7,000 MSRP on these Titan HDs. So I would like to see them either bump up the specs or lower the MSRP to compete with some of their competition for what they're offering at this level. But overall, I like the machine. I've had no problems with it. It's a very good machine. It cuts very well. It's got plenty of power, and I still highly recommend it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, check out my initial review video, my accessories video, and as time goes on and I rack up the hours on this thing, I'll be doing some maintenance and repair videos on this thing when that comes time. So thanks for watching.